Oh, I love when a plan comes together. Hello, this is Dr. Brie-Anna Willey, and this is my channel, Business for Nerds, with my blog of the same name. On my podcast, we talk about different business concepts and nerd out and noodle about things. I'm trying to stream again from Google to YouTube, so hopefully this works. Hopefully you can hear us. Today I'm chatting with Joshua Tyrrell of Aspen HR. Did I say the name of the business okay?
Yeah, Aspen
Okay.
HR.
Okay. What is your position there?
So I'm the sales director here at Aspen. Been in this industry about 9 years now. So prior to Aspen, I was at another very large PEO for about 6-7 years.
Neat. So you've learned a lot about professional employer organizations. I keep wanting to say employee instead of employer. I keep mixing that up.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's normal because it still involves all the employees. So essentially it's very similar, yeah.
Yeah. You know what we're talking about if we mix up the words.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
short, just say PEO, and then you don't have to get into the whole administrivia of it.
Very cool. And how are you today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's Veterans Day today,
Hmm.
and yeah, very appreciative of all the veterans. Hopefully, take a little bit of extra time today. I know a lot of us we work on additional things, but yeah, that was one thing I didn't realize it came up so quickly. So last week I was like, wow, Monday is Veterans Day, so it snuck up on us very quick.
It did, yes. I am going to take some time off today. I'll be riding my bike later. And yes, we are all very appreciative of veterans. Thank you for all you have done and do. Okay, and getting into the business of things. Well, real quick, actually, first, before we get into business, I guess this is kind of a segue into it. So it's business for nerds, right? So what do you nerd out about?
Yeah, I mean, I feel a little weird admitting this, but I got back into World of Warcraft, and you need some downtime to just enjoy the things that you used to enjoy.
Hmm.
And every once in a while, they'll come out with these new expansions I'll jump into. I was actually talking with a friend at a wedding. He does the same thing. He'll jump into it for a little bit, kind of step away, and then get back into it. And so that's kind of I nerd out quite a bit because I have 5 kids. We play Super Smash Brothers to get together. My son tries to pull me into Fortnite. And so, yeah, but my main one is absolutely World of Warcraft when I can find time, usually only on the weekends, and it's only for an hour. But
Yeah.
that's the major one. Yeah.
I love it. I got back into Fallout, and I've been playing Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3, and it has a mod that combines the two, which is the Tale of Two Wastelands. When I have time, which is occasionally, I play that
Right.
too.
Yeah, I love Fallout. I mean, I'm a big nerd for tons of different games. The problem is, I can only, if you want to get into it, you need a lot of time to really
You
go
do.
through the whole campaigning. But I love Fallout, Skyrim.
Yeah.
I'll go back into those every once in a while, and I've pretty much set up my character very well. So you just have a lot of fun and just randomly explore places when you have a little bit of time just to kind of go into it.
We're all about work-life balance, and as my coach calls it, work-life integration. So we have to have these, fun times, just kind of escapes from work here and there.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you do that too, and you spend time with your family, which is, awesome.
Yeah.
We need time with family and friends. Okay, so now getting into PEOs. Okay, so I have a number of questions, and I will admit AI did help me with coming up with some of these.
You can't do
What?
anything without AI these days. I
I
mean,
know.
it's there's so many things, just simple things like, hey, I don't want to research this for the next hour and a half, and then it comes up with a full summary of what you're looking for. So, yeah, there's no way that's going away. So
Right. I love it. This would have taken me hours to come up with these, but AI, it just took a few minutes and then I
yeah.
looked at them and just kind of reworked them. Okay, so understanding PEOs, what are they and how do they work? What is a PEO?
Yeah. So professional employer organization. Uh, the main thing to kind of understand about a PEO is, so typically a business will set everything up, maybe have a couple of employees to start. Every business, of course, is different, just depends on the industry. But usually you're looking to set up payroll. You have a separate vendor for benefits, a separate vendor for workers' comp. Maybe you have
Mhm.
some components for timekeeping and then professional, like performance reviews and applicant tracking systems. And for that, you're also in charge of setting up in different states unemployment tax accounts. You're also in charge of paying those employees and working through HR guidances and keeping everything compliant and set up handbooks and you name it. So the idea of a professional employer organization is it takes all of that and puts into one place. And
Ooh.
yeah, I mean, it's a one-stop shop essentially. The main thing that a lot of people look at a PEO with, though, is benefits, because uh,
Yes.
and here's where you get into the weeds. And of course, people are welcome to research it more. But a way a PEO works is it's a co-employer model. There's so many different models out there, like joint employers, employer of record. This is a co-employer model, so it's recognized with the IRS. And what it really is we share our tax ID with our clients. And because of that, we need to take on those HR tasks. So payroll, workers' comp filing, state unemployment tax filings, and benefits. And
Hmm.
so when we're taking on all of those different components, we can offer those large stream of benefits. And so the idea is you're aggregating thousands of employees, thousands of clients to then leverage that size to get really good benefits, but also fortune style benefits. Because when a company is very large, let's think of like a Google or, Snapchat, right? They're very large businesses. They have thousands upon thousands of employees to leverage that. So they have
Right.
a lot of negotiation, insurance, and you get into the weeds there too, but insurance it's run by claims and premiums. And so when you have a lot of people in that mix, and there's good risk and bad risk in insurance premiums, the enough of the people keep those premiums usually lower, and also renewals generally are lower too. And
Hmm.
so a PEO really is that main reason why, like, hey, we're only 5 people today. We really would like to attract good talent, but we also want to offer great benefits, which we can't get very easily on our own. And not even talking about like disability policies and other policies that are out there,
Hmm.
it's very difficult. So a PEO leverages that size. You can offer those great benefits, and of course, have full HR guidance, support, and compliance.
Wow. And I've been kind of chatting with some, because I'm a therapist and I also have a business coaching business. But thinking about my therapy business, many of us, we have trouble with finding inexpensive benefits for ourselves.
Right.
A lot of us are looking into the marketplace or, you know, uh, word finding issues, but finding, benefits for ourselves from different reps and that type of thing. So it sounds like this may be a good option for us to kind of, look at maybe reducing some costs.
Right. Yeah, it is. It is a very good option. Now, what I will tell you, and I know many people and know all the different, because there's a lot of different PEOs out there, and there's ways to determine which ones are good and which ones are bad. Those are based on accreditations. Now, what I will say is a lot of PEOs generally want businesses that have a good handful of employees that are benefit eligible. So,
Okay.
you know, I want to be mindful of that, because a one person business, it's rather difficult to secure under a PEO,
Right.
for the main goal of benefits. Now you could
Right.
probably secure dental, vision, life insurance, disability, but the main one, of course, is health insurance. So there's a ways to look at it. There's potential where you could set associations. So multiple businesses are kind of pooled together in a subset. So there's potential
Ah,
there. And, like
so
Aspen,
say,
we can put that.
sorry to interrupt you. So say because I'm a very small business, one or two, sometimes three employees, depending. Um, if it's possible to maybe pool with another
Right.
business as an association and then maybe seek out a PEO. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's kind of it. Yeah. So you'd both be separate businesses, but what the PEO would do is say, hey, business one, business two are from the same source, same industry. And we would then look at, okay, instead of only three for you, it's 3 and 3. Okay, we got 6 to work with here. And of course, then other businesses could bump into that as well. And the
Huh.
association essentially grows. And so
Ooh.
I've been working through some discussions internally on how we could do that, but that's the idea of when I had multiple discussions with a lot of our experts. Like, okay, well, we could look at it from that perspective. They would all be treated separately, of course, but the overall review would be, okay, all of these businesses we can look at from that perspective.
That's amazing. I love that you're having that conversation because there are so many of us. Oh, I can't even count how many of us struggle and are in the Facebook groups I'm in, I'm probably in over 100. I see that question all the time. What
Yeah.
what do y'all use for your health insurance? I don't know what to do. And I'm one of
Yeah.
them sometimes. Now I have something, but looking at more less expensive options is something a lot of us are looking for.
And it depends on the state too, because some states have pretty aggressive types of benefits where, even the open market benefits
Mhm.
are okay. But in other states, you could be paying out the nose on health insurance and it's a significant cost. And, a lot of times people bump into their spouse's plan. Um, even then, though, some businesses, the way they set those plans, they may not fund as much towards a spouse jumping on a plan. So there's so many different ways you have to assess those costs. And then you have a pooled, there's models out there where things are pooled, but you have to be in that pool of risk for a good amount of time, a couple of years before you can even fully leverage it. So I'm
Mm.
with you. I mean, that's been my major frustration in general in this industry. It's small businesses really have a difficult time. Like they're really moving the economy. You have businesses that may start off small, but they have all these amazing breakthroughs that really cascade it into a massive growth cycle. But if you can't have benefits first and you're trying to bring on people, it,
Mhm.
it's really difficult. And then you have to explain to people, well, we may have benefits soon. You just
Right.
won't have them right away. And it's very I mean, nobody wants that, right? Like you
Yeah.
always want to have benefits. You always want to have something for employees, something that pulls them away from what they have today. That's the major competitive landscape. And that's been my big thing is how do we work with that? How can you work around things to make it work? Even if you do an open market plan to start for businesses where you set up like a small group policy. So 2 employees, you could set up a small group policy with like our agency and then graduate into a master policy like that PEO plan. You'd still have
Mm.
everything else, but we have ways around trying to make that work for businesses because sometimes we can make it work, sometimes we can't. It just depends on how everything comes back around as far as like overall review and quoting.
Hmm. A lot to, as my coach says, noodle on, kind of think about.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's so many different scenarios. One business is not going to be the same as the other, and they may have some high needs with health benefits. Other businesses maybe not. It depends on the industry too, and that's what
Mhm.
we have to navigate that all the time. And some businesses as well. You may have businesses that have benefits, but they're way ahead of the industry and they don't realize it. that they're spending so much. And, there's times like that where we just need to help review and see what we can help with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it sounds like you can do sort of an a la carte kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's PEO, there's some PEOs that won't do anything a la carte. And then there's other PEOs that will carve out certain things. So for instance, you can do, if you don't want to do benefits, you want to do an open market plan that maybe you have today, but you want everything else from a PEO, you can carve out that piece and we could still administer the plan through our system. You could have open enrollment through the system, everything there. A lot of times we may take over broker of record that we can help maintain that plan. But we have businesses, we have businesses that have their own plan and they want to leverage a PEO because yes, the benefit component is very important to businesses with a PEO, but the HR guidance, compliance, maintaining state unemployment, and also legal assistance from an HR perspective, those sometimes outweigh. So each business may have a different level of PEO that they like, and that's the main component is we can carve out workers' comp if you would like to keep that. You can have your own 401k plan. You don't have to leverage ours. There's different ways to do it, but there's so many different a la carte ways to run with it. I will tell you though, with PEO, the requirement is they still have to maintain that payroll component. So if you are married to, your payroll service, where it's a QuickBooks, a Gusto, what have you, that would have to switch over under PEO. So be mindful of that. That would have to move over. So because
do you keep the bookkeeping side?
Oh yeah,
with QuickBooks. Okay.
Yeah.
You just switch the payroll.
Anything business related, your bookkeeping, maybe your general liability type of insurance, those all would stay. Nothing would change there. It's just the payroll taxes, reporting, W-2s, W-4s, even 1099s. 1099s you can leverage through a PEO. So
most counselors don't like doing that stuff anyway. So
that's a lot of the conversations I come against is we have businesses that never once log in. We just maintain everything. We do everything over email. You run salaries all the time and they say, hey, we just want to run a bonus this next payroll. They shoot us an email. We run it for them. Other businesses really want to get in there. You have timekeeping, maybe you have employees clocking in, clocking out. Maybe you're putting additional things into the payroll as far as bonuses or commissions. So they do want to get in there for that. But
sure. And they can if they want.
Yeah, they can. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we went into business because we want some level of control over our work and life. Right. But there are some things we don't like doing, which is, payroll stuff. It's just not,
It's a lot of work. And especially if, let's say you hire somebody, talent is anywhere, right? And we're in a very high remote workforce. When you hire in another state, you just moved your risk pool up through the roof. Your liability really moves.
Yes.
Because, you have to think of communications to employees as far as handbooks, policies. If you don't even have those in place today, not saying that's a super big worry, but you have to think from a litigious standpoint.
Yes.
You've got to have all those bases covered. And you break into another state, your offer letters may need to switch up a little bit. Some of your policies, maybe you're offering paid time off or sick leave, those may need to switch up a little bit. And so having a team that you can easily just call up and say, hey, what do I do? What am I missing? That's a major component. And a lot of times it may already just be covered in the employee handbook because you're kind of figuring out as you go, like, hey, we probably will hire in this state. So our team would already build that out. So it just depends.
So a group like yours would be very helpful if a small private practice is looking to scale, to grow larger, to hire more people. That would be very helpful with the work-life balance too, because then, the person's still running most of the business except, the pieces that we really don't know a whole lot about, because we're not trained in school about,
Yeah.
HR and benefits and, payroll. We had to it was trial by fire, kind of figuring it out as we go. And some of us know some, but we don't know everything. And if we delegate that, could be really helpful with growing.
Yeah. And I'm with you because I've been in this industry about 9, coming on 10 years, and there's always something changing. So I don't know everything. And I
Right.
recognize that. I know enough to
You're a
say,
human.
yeah, I know enough to say, hey, this is what needs to happen. And this is what I typically see. And I've seen the goods and the bads of, you know, businesses that have operated on their own. I will tell you, there's been enough bad out there that's scared me to say, hey, these are major components you need to be mindful of. Any business, whether
Mhm.
you come on with a PEO or not, these are major things that need to be addressed ahead of time, because it's just like insurance, right? You don't need it until you need it. And you don't know if you
Yeah.
need it until something actually happens, and then you do need it. And there's so
Mm.
many businesses out there that are operating with things right, but then they have a few things wrong, and those things wrong could cost them thousands upon thousands of dollars in fees, legal, you name it. So I'm passionate about this because I've seen some major things. I'm also passionate that it does help businesses when you fully right the ship, or you are offering really great benefits that help them grow quickly. It's an
Mhm.
amazing thing to see. And they're bringing in talent from all over the world, and it's almost turnkey, because they don't
Hmm.
have to set up all these different things. They can bring on that talent very quickly and move people in the right positions and scale.
Hmm. Wow. I feel like I'm learning a lot here, things I really had never heard of before. This rarely comes up in all those groups I'm in, this type of thing.
Right.
So I feel like, again, I need to keep kind of researching this and noodling on it.
Right. Yeah.
Co-working with the IRS. I don't know, you said co-employer,
Hmm.
recognized with the IRS. What does that mean again?
Yeah. So we share our tax ID,
Yeah.
and this is where you would be on the payroll, like on the pay stubs, the paychecks for the employees. It would list company A and Aspen HR, for instance. Now the
Okay.
W-2s that at the end of the year or the following year, it would list Aspen because it's our tax ID, and everything falls on us. It's from a payroll component, tax filing component, state unemployment tax in various states, and compliance. So that's why a PEO really focuses so much on that, because if something's off, it's on us. We face those
Oh,
fees, we face those fines. And so that's why and you can research this, but a lot of venture capital and private equity firms love PEO because it secures their investment, because it's saying, hey, all of these different components are being maintained and keeping full compliance. And then they have a full HR team that they don't have to hire an HR expert, essentially. You just go to the PEO and ask for those ideas. Now, the other component is the worksite employer. That's the official kind of term of the
work
client. Yeah,
site employer. Okay.
yeah. So worksite
Okay.
employer, nothing changes from you own the employees, you are doing the hiring and firing. Aspen or any PO does not want the rights to hire or fire employees. That would then
Okay.
eliminate the idea that's a co-employer relationship. So
Okay. So you
yeah,
still hire and fire.
yeah, everything that you're maintaining today, the employees would have no idea. They would think of an Aspen PEO as the administrative side. So we provide an HRIS system. It's fully mobile friendly. So it's a full HR payroll type of system where they can, pull their pay stubs, put in time off, clock in, clock out, depending
Mhm.
on how you have it set up. They can do their taxes, everything, direct deposit, set it all up there. And so how they view an Aspen is, hey, they're providing the benefits, they're providing the payroll. I'm still working for, company A. I'm reporting to them, I'm answering questions, they're doing my performance reviews. Nothing changes from that
We're still the
perspective.
head of the
Yeah.
company. Like, say, my business, Shekinah Counseling, if I worked with you, I'd still be the head, the CEO, or
Oh,
whatever.
absolutely. Yeah.
But you would take over the HR pieces. I would still be the hiring and firing.
Right.
I'd essentially be the head of it all, but I'd be delegating that. Is that kind of what you're saying? Delegating
Yeah.
the HR pieces.
You're delegating the HR pieces. You would have an HR, like a assigned HR business partner that we could help with counseling. So for instance, maybe there's some trouble in the workforce. Maybe you're considering terminating an employee. Well, you can leverage us and say, hey, here's the issues. Here's what's going on. What do we do? And we can help
Mm-hmm.
advise and say, okay, these are steps you need to take. And you could take that information and follow it, or you could just do something completely different. That's all
Because
your
I'm still
decision.
in charge.
You're still in charge. And so
Okay.
sometimes we will provide guidance and then someone will go the complete opposite direction. And we get that. But we also provide that guidance for a reason, because you don't want to have lawsuits come back or equal opportunity type of issues pop up. So there's proper ways to do it. But again,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to follow it. You can just do whatever you like and maintain the business however you see fit. And
Yeah.
that's fine. That's just be
Right.
mindful of we do have policies. So each PEO will have something called employer practices liability insurance. And I recommend every business has that. If you're hiring employees, you should absolutely have some sort of EPLI insurance. It's $1 million policy, but really it is if there's some major issues, lawsuits, then aside from the deductible that usually those policies have, that should absorb potentially putting out a company out of business. You know,
Whoa.
so that's very important to have. And a lot of clients that you may work with may require that anyways. So you usually have to have those policies in place to begin with. So majority of PEOs, I'd say if not all, offer an EPLI policy, because sometimes in
EPLI. What is that again?
employer practices liability insurance or employment practices liability
Because
insurance.
we're for counselors, we have our practice liability insurance where it covers our services,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not the same as what you're saying. So you said
No,
employee.
it doesn't sound the same as what you have today. This
Yeah.
is specific to employees. So any employment related issues that would pop up between employer and employee, that is
Mhm.
what it's going to encompass. And usually the policies list like what's covered under that. So you always want to double check on that. But PEOs have that type of policy because, yeah, there's some issues that pop up. Also, PEOs sometimes get listed into those lawsuits because an attorney may see, oh, hey, there's an Aspen HR and company listed a lot of times on these pay stubs or this W-2. You have both listed a lot of times, and so we make sure that all companies are covered with that, because yeah, those things do pop up, and they can. Any size business sees some sort of issues. It's becoming more and more common, unfortunately, now. And
Yeah.
you have to be careful and protect the business, because the last thing you want is, hey, you work so hard, an employment related issue comes up and you're stuck in all these legal fees to try to combat it. And
Yeah.
so that's a major thing I always recommend every business should have.
Right. That makes sense. Oh my goodness. Again, my brain's exploding with information here. It's helpful. It's good. Let's see. We also, as therapists, as small business owners, we're having trouble because there's these huge groups that have the ability to hire and pay really well and give good benefits. And so many of us are struggling with hiring and competing because of that. I wonder if working with a PEO could help us become more competitive, because it wouldn't turn us into that necessarily, it wouldn't turn us into a huge company that's causing more problems, but it could help us be able to hire people,
Oh,
counselors.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yes, because think about it, even the very large companies, a lot of times aren't coming out super aggressive on their benefit offerings. Yes, they do have multiple different options available, but they're not funding it a lot because they
Mm-hmm.
recognize that these costs do add up. And, there's many ways it can be competitive. Um, and offering multiple benefits, it puts you in that same type of look and feel as those very large businesses. Because, like for instance, Aspen, we have not only medical's a major component. We have close to 30 plans you can choose from, whether they're a high deductible plan you can couple with an HSA, or it could be really low deductible in and out of network, almost to zero in network and then out of network very low. So you have all those different options, and you could say, hey, we want to offer 3 options for our employees. They can choose what they like. You're opening up, hey, we have these multiple offerings, at least on medical, and then you can open up dental, vision, life insurance, disability, even down to pet insurance and legal assistance from
Oh,
so there's,
pet insurance.
oh
I love
yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so you have pet
Oh,
insurance, you have employee discounts because you're leveraging the size of that PEO. You can open up, hey, like employee discounts to buy a new laptop through Dell, or for instance, or
ooh.
lower their monthly bill on gym memberships or even phone plans. So there's
Mm.
multiple employee discounts that you can pop up there, and then you can even offer 401k, which under Aspen, there's no costs for 401k at an employer perspective. So you're already
Oh,
limiting, you just cut costs there, because if you want to open up a 401k, yeah, usually you have to have some sort of plan you set up, and you're usually incurring costs. Then also the administrative side and testing that has to be conducted. Those are additional costs. Whereas the PEO takes over fiduciary liability. So a lot of that testing is all handled by the PEO. You're putting all that burden on them because they're the employer that's sponsoring that type of plan. And it's a multiple employer plan. So you can have multiple different mutual funds that employees can choose from, and there's no cost. So you're now, yes, there's going to be a gap between you and a very competitive type of company, but now you're closing that gap, and you're making it much more enticing for employees to say, you know what? And a lot of times employees don't really want to be, nowadays, employees don't want to be in the major corporate landscape. They would like to kind of start in somewhere where it's moving in an amazing direction, and they want to help grow that because they have all these
yes.
skills. They don't feel
Yes.
like their voice is heard in a very large corporate structure.
Right.
So you already have that there, and then closing that gap with additional benefits, really then the employee's looking at, okay, you know what? This looks like a good deal for me, and the growth potential, and I can make a difference. And so that's a lot of times what we see, and you just open up a few offerings here and there. And employees are very understanding as well. When you say, hey, we're getting there, we're growing, we may not have everything, but we're starting off in a good spot. And our goal is to keep improving. And so
Mm.
employees really, you'll see that they really do look at that as, okay, this is great potential for me, and I can make a difference.
Wow. Wow. I'm just blown away. This is cool. I'm so glad I had you on the show here. Um, let me see. What other questions do I have? Let's see. You already kind of answered that. Can it be customized to the unique needs of
Oh,
the business? You said
yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Cost. Can you give us maybe a figure for a very small business, maybe with 3 people? I don't know if you can or can't. That just needs, I
Yeah.
don't know, what would they need?
I mean, I can. Uh,
Okay.
the only thing is, it's going to be partial because every PEO will have their own administrative fee. So they're going to have a fee, and There's many that do it differently. Some do a percentage of payroll. I'll tell you, Aspen, we do a per employee per month model. So if it's 3 employees, you would see a certain dollar figure per employee per month. And we can build multiple different structures. That's the part where you're customizing, because you could say, you know what, we're looking to start off at this size. We want to grow, and this is our growth plans in the next 2 to 3 years. And we could build in tiered models that say, okay, well, you're at 5 today, but when you get to 10, it would be this structure. When you get to 20, it would be this structure. And the idea is it should go down as you grow. Now, the reason why I say I only can give you partial, like I can give you a per employee per month, like as an idea. And what I will say is 150 per employee per month is usually what we start off with for smaller groups, from 1 to 10 employees. We do have a 4 employee minimum. So even if you start with 1 employee, the reason why I say this is it would be $600 per month. You would assume the model would set up as a 4 employee minimum until you get to that level where you are 4 or more employees. And again, when I'm saying, the reason I'm saying partial is because I don't know what medical costs would be. I don't know what workers' comp costs would be. Those are the largest spend for business is, 80% of the company spends usually the medical costs and benefits.
Right.
Workers' comp, depending on the industry, it may or may not be a large cost because, if everybody's clerical and working from home, your biggest risk is that somebody has a hand cramp, right? And they're not going to be pulling out a workers' comp policy for that. So,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So workers' comp usually isn't a large cost for remote businesses. And so the benefits, though, that's where we'd have to quote for that. We'd have to get, and every PEO's very similar to this. You need a census of the employees. Who do you think would enroll into benefits? So we have an idea. And then we can go from there as far as getting quotes and presenting rates on plans. And then as a business, you decide how much of these plans do we want to fund? How much of these plans are we comfortable with funding, for each and every employee that enrolls into this? And do we want to have different structures as far as funding, or do we want to have it the same across the board for each and every employee? You can review those different types of strategies.
Okay. What if, because you were talking to your people about maybe doing something that's a little more for even smaller businesses. So you're talking about like your first structure starts with 4.
Right.
And many of us are solopreneurs. What if we want to hire, but we're not at the point we can give benefits? Can you help in any way with that? Because I do some I do business consulting and coaching, and I can help people grow.
Right.
But could you be a part of that with helping a person grow from solopreneur to 2 and 3 and 4 and more, or are you still kind of working on something like that?
So by helping them, do you just mean like advice, guidance?
HR stuff, maybe like helping them hire, or is there some sort of tier maybe they could look into for that piece, like basically delegating the HR, even though they don't have benefits they can offer yet, just to kind of help with scaling?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we have multiple businesses that may start at 1, and they set up the foundation with us for the idea that they're going to have growth. So even though they may not want to offer benefits right away, we can carve that out and support everything else. So for instance, we had one just recently, actually, that they had no idea what they're doing. They're starting off with 1 person, and
So many of us.
Yeah, and they were honest about it. Yeah, they were absolutely honest. So like, I have no idea what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. All I know is I need to hire people within the next 3 to 6 months, and I want to do it the right way. And we're like, okay, that's perfect. So we set them up. We actually fully built out their employee handbook. So had everything all encompassed in the handbook. They were still trying to figure out what they're doing for paid time off, holidays. We helped provide some benchmarking data on that.
Yeah.
And of course, each state they were in, so this company was actually starting off in New York. So New York is it's a very difficult state in so many different arenas. Benefits, super difficult. HR, very difficult as well. There's multiple compliance pieces you have to have set up. And even paid time off type of policies, you have to review that. So we helped get them set up fully in New York. And we work with every state, but particularly that state, we got everything set up. We did the handbook. They were hiring folks, so we helped them with offer letters. We gave them an offer letter template that they could look at, and even went back to us and said, okay, this is what we're going to do for this employee. Does it all look good? We made a couple very small changes and said, yep, everything looks good. They then started hiring individuals, and then the next piece was, okay, now we need to do benefits. What do we need to do? So we then pulled the details we needed to offer benefits, provide consultation on, okay, this is what we typically see as far as offerings, and this is what we typically see as far as funding, because we have tons of benchmarking data. And they leveraged that to then start opening up those plans for employees. They had a couple people enroll, and now they're at a level of about 5 employees and working on from there. So yeah, it was even at a point where the person, the way that this is more unique is they even want to hire themselves, because they're like, I'm not even taking a salary, so can we just get everything set up and you guys can help us with that? We're like, yes, we can. We'll have everything built out. And then the idea is that when you do want to hire people or even hire yourself or bring yourself on, as long as it's a compliant way to do it, we'll be here. And so that's the thing. Again, it's a frustration I had in prior places because no one was willing to do that, and get
to
people
work with a small business.
Oh, because not even they'd have to have people. There was no way to hire, get things going ahead of time to help them. And we're heavy in mergers and acquisitions now too. So we're helping when buyers are finding a new business, they have all these different components that they're trying to work on and solve, and then they need to get everything set up. And we're even at that space now where we're helping a lot of businesses in that arena.
Neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you value your current place of work because they're so flexible. They're working with small to large businesses and growing and looking into new areas.
Oh, yeah.
Flexibility is important.
It's very important because small and medium-sized businesses really do make a extremely large part of the economy, and if they don't have any support to get started, well, how are they going to succeed, at a level, and there's statistics out there and you can look them up, but one of the major ones is, a company who's working with a PEO are 50% more likely to succeed. And it's based on all these different statistics. You can check, it's called NAPEO, so it's National Association of PEO.
I looked that up. I was learning, and I know you're accredited with them.
Yeah, so we are an APO member. We are also ESAC accredited, which very high standards. Yeah, think of it like FDIC for banks. It's a high, like FDIC for banks. So banks have these accreditations. That your money's safe. Essentially, if the bank did go under, you saw the Silicon Valley type of issue. ESAC is. I equate it very similar to that, in that the PEO's in it for the long haul. The PEO's met all these certain requirements to have this accreditation, meaning that we're not going out of business anytime soon. And, that's a major worry for people that are working with PEO too. It's like, okay, I'm going to work with them, but I need to make sure they're not going to disappear, so those are major.
Wow. So 50% more likely to succeed as a small business owner if working with a PEO.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because you have all of these different levers to pull. You're maintaining full compliance. And then on top of it, usually you're offering some sort of benefits to then hire and, retain employees.
Yeah. Wow. I got to keep learning. I love this. I'm just learning so much. I can't wait to keep learning. I actually am going to work on a presentation about this to even go into it further. I may have to invite you back.
Oh yeah.
There's just
Yeah.
so much. I think I'm probably gonna have 10 more questions.
Yeah. I mean, it's very easy to get into the weeds on PEO. I think
Mhm.
the easiest way to understand it though is the PEO is there to fully support all HR needs, and you get a huge benefit out of benefit offerings and full compliance. Like that's the easiest way to kind of figure out what is a PEO. I went into like all the different nuances of it, but that's the basic way. PEO's your full partner. Like we don't think of ourselves even as a vendor. We're there to help guide as much as possible through all HR landscapes.
So kind of like a business partner.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah, we have clients that leverage us on future acquisitions. So they're looking to, they have businesses today and they're saying, okay, we're looking at acquiring this business. Can you guys take a look at this and see
Oh.
if there's some HR holes, some hard stops that we need to address really quickly? And we've helped businesses even down to those components. And,
Mm.
those are major because like for instance, one business didn't have verified I-9s, and I-9s are confirming an employee can legally work in the United States, and that was one they were looking at, and it ended up that nothing, only a handful were fully done, and so that business then had to take a step back and say, okay, we need to look at this a little bit deeper now, and so
Mm. Mhm.
it's obviously an unfortunate type of circumstance. You don't want that to happen, but it helped them from an investment standpoint too. They've grown, they're growing more, and they want to make sure they make the right purchases.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Anything else you wanted to kind of tell us about PEOs?
Um, what I will say is a lot of times you will see significant savings on a PEO. I know I told you costs, and there's, if we do an association, you could leverage to lower costs there too. Um, if you were to do this on your own, where you have all these different components and then benefits are going through open market, we've seen significant savings. And that's where a lot of times people look at PEOs, because that savings on the benefits heavily offsets if they did open a small group policy for two people, through the open market. And so a
Mhm.
lot of times you will see savings there. It may not look like it right away when you're now just offering benefits, but what we try to do is look at, okay, if you did open benefits through the open market, because we have our own agency, um, we can look at those types of policies and say, okay, this is a major component. And that's also not assuming everything else, like HR, 401k, all those different components you need help with, those incur significant amount of costs. So
Yeah.
I absolutely want to make sure that's, if you did everything and you're opening it up on your own, or you have benefits on your own, you should look at significant cost savings on a PEO, because you're offsetting a lot of those benefit costs. You're offsetting workers' comp, consultative costs, even down to your systems you use, because
Oh, I
again,
was
it's
just
all in one
talking about
place.
systems.
Yeah,
Business systems. So you can help with that too, with business systems.
we can help. So from employer employee type of
Mhm.
systems. So like I mentioned, the timekeeping side, like there's job costing, there's scheduling components you may have already today
Yeah.
that could fully offset it, where it's leveraged through our system and you don't have to do any exports. It's all one place. And then hiring. So maybe you're pushing jobs to job boards and you're using an ATS system. Well, you can leverage that through our system. And once you decide to hire somebody, it just pulls them right into the hiring process and kicks out an email that they complete their details. So
Mm,
um,
interesting.
those components, performance management, so if you're running performance reviews with employees, you can leverage that, where you can kick that over to clients and they can review an employee. So it could offset certain components of business systems, but I wouldn't say all of them. No, I mean, it's more employee employer type of systems that you would think of.
I need to research that more. I'm going to look into if you maybe have time, maybe coming back on the show for some follow-up questions. So we'll noodle about that. How
Okay,
about?
sounds good.
Okay. Okay. Wow. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show and answering all of our questions about PEOs. I have probably 100 more questions. So, but we're, only have so much time. So, thank you again, Josh. And thank you, business nerds, for listening. See you next time.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.